Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to An Hour to Kill, a podcast where we take an hour of your time talking about horror and we hide it in shame, but lovingly so. I'm your host, Dorian Adaholic Brown, and I'm joined once again by the immortal Damon DB Weathers. Damon, what's up, sir?
Yeah, I'm really hungry. I just realized. But other than that, I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Hopefully you can starve off hunger for an hour, because that's what we do here. It'll only be a short, brief hour, and then you can go indulge. Any plans on food? What are you thinking tonight?
I don't know. I'm feeling pizza. I probably shouldn't, but I'm probably going to anyway. So pizza sounds kind of good.
Hell yeah. Somebody in the, I forget who, but somebody in the Discord just posted something about like a stuffed pizza. Yesterday I was like, oh yeah, I want stuffed crust pizza. And so that's what we did. And
God, that sounds amazing. That might be it. That's the call. Thank you, whoever did that.
Yeah, thank you. I wish I remember now, but it might have been Pood. I don't know. I'll just say Pood because Pood's a great man. Anyways, it was probably Pood.
It's probably.
So we are back for another episode of An Hour to Kill. If this is your first time, hello, welcome. We take a horror topic, we talk about movies, and we talk about it for an hour. So you can, kill an hour. Exactly as the title says. On today's episode, we're going to be discovering our favorite guilty pleasure horror movie of all time. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, I mean, we didn't really set a strict criteria, but in my head, what I designed about what I thought about for that was something that's, you wouldn't consider like a classic. You're not gonna, if you're talking about your top 5 horror movies, it's not gonna show up there. It might even be thought of positively, might be thought of as negatively, but it's something that, while you're not gonna, if somebody's asking you, hey, what are the horror movies I must watch before I die, this movie's probably not going to come up, but it's something you enjoy nonetheless. Did you have like a specific criteria in mind for this, Damon, without giving away your choice yet? Did you have a criteria in mind when you were thinking about this, or?
I looked at it as if somebody asked me if I saw it, 9 out of 10 people I'd lie and say no, I've never seen it.
Okay, yeah. See, I'm more proud of my choice, so I definitely didn't go that hard with it. But that's fair. And after seeing your movie, I understand that now. Speaking of which, Damon, what is your movie?
I'm going the classic Ghost Ship from 2002.
The classic is sure a way to put it. Ghost Ship. We will be getting into that real shortly. I picked Slither, the 2006 movie directed by DC president James Gunn. So that was an interesting choice and a fun movie, and we'll talk about that too. So as always, we're going to be spoiling the ever-loving shit out of these movies. So if you haven't seen these movies, watch them or don't. These are guilty pleasure movies, so you might not miss too much by hearing us yammer on about them this time, right?
If anything, we might convince you to actually watch something you wouldn't have watched.
Okay, I've just realized I don't have the timer open, so let me open that up. There we go. All right, that is open. And we are basically set. So if there's nothing else, Damon, did you have any last thoughts, concerns before we roll right into Ghost Ship?
I already don't like oceans or anything I don't understand, which is everything in the ocean. So I'm going to run through this son of a bitch really fast.
Fair enough. All right. So on the count, we're going to do a little bit of countdown as usual, and then we're going to start the timer. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, and the timer has started. Let's get into it.
Ghost Ship, released in October of 2002. It's directed by Stephen Beck. Starring, it's got quite a cast. You've got Gabriel Byrne, Juliana Margulies, Emily Browning, very young Emily Browning, Carl Urban. Some of my, just realizing a couple honorable mentions I had, was going to do Slumber Party Massacre and Silent Night Deadly Night Part 2. You got to go Part 2 for the Garbage Day line. And if anybody knows what I'm talking about, shout it out. But Ghost Ship, I had to go with Ghost Ship. A quick synopsis of it. It's a salvage crew discovers a long-lost 1962 passenger ship floating lifeless in a remote region of the Bering Sea, and soon notices that its long dead inhabitants may still be on board. It's kind of what it is. It's a ghost ship. When I first saw this, I'll be honest, my wife made me watch this. yeah, I'm going to put her on blast. And as I'm watching it, Joel Silver's name shows up, Bob Zemeckis, Susan Levin, who's actually Robert Downey's wife before she married him. So, and she's a pretty prolific producer. You see their names as the movie starts and the crawl starts, and it's really cool. You've got the awesome '60s aesthetic. You get the little bit of Art Deco on the ship, almost reminds you of BioShock, pre all the bullshit that happens. And you get into an opening that's actually it's very much like the Friday the 13th remake. The first 10 minutes are balls to the wall. There's an opening that is holy shit awesome, and probably one of the best openings you'll see in a long time. It's just a cacophony of kills that happen. I mean, you have a whole dance floor. People get completely sliced in half or in different sections by a wire. Eventually, it leads into other stuff. But the opening, I mean, if anybody watches this, literally just watch the opening. The opening's amazing. But 10 minutes after or so, you get into this really bad 90s editing style. You get into this new metal song by Mudvayne blaring over the movie while the driver in the cabin is just headbanging. So I'm watching this, and two things come to mind. I'm thinking, first, who the hell did Gabriel Byrne owe a favor to do this movie? And why does this movie feel so much like 13 Ghosts, which is just under guilty pleasure for me? 13 Ghosts is terrible. But it has its fun moments, and it's kind of mindless, much like this. So as we're watching this, I looked at my wife and I go, this really feels like 13 Ghosts. And I looked it up, and sure enough, Steve Beck did both movies. These are actually his only two movies he made. He's a VFX guy that was at ILM back in the day. He was in a lot of classic films, doing VFX for them. Where there's Hunt for Red October, Indiana Jones: Last Crusade. And, there's quite a list. But these are the only two films he directed. As the movie starts and you get through, like I said, you get through the crawl, and then you start realizing this is a Dark Castle picture. Dark Castle, for anybody who knows, is Zemeckis and Joel Silver's horror production company that's under Silver Pictures' label. They're responsible for movies like this: 13 Ghosts, Ghost Ship, the House of Wax remake, the House on Haunted Hill remake, Gothica, Orphan. You get that vibe, you get that style. All those movies, you kind of get that's a Dark Castle movie. Eventually, they dabble in non-horror stuff later on, like Rock and Roll, Ninja Assassin, a few other things. But there's just a level of quality and feel and look that you're getting with a Dark Castle movie. So this movie's super quintessential for what those guys do. Low budget horror. I want to say it's $20 million. But one thing that stuck out to me while we were watching it, I actually remember always seeing this poster at video stores. Hell, I even remember seeing it at a theater, and the poster's so cheaply done. And this movie is so cheaply done that they actually stole that poster from a movie called Death Ship in 1980. I mean, it's pretty uncanny, except this is a bad Photoshop job. At least the Death Ship one is completely hand drawn. Looks kind of cool. Anyway, going off the deep there, pun intended. It's not a good movie. It's not at all. But the reason it's a guilty pleasure for me, after watching it the first time, I kind of was surprised. It does build an atmosphere with the murkiness and gross scenery of the rundown abandoned ship, surprisingly. The screenplay doesn't avoid all the Hollywood conventions, and it definitely has the cliches of horror films, especially at the time. But I'll give Steve Beck, I'll give him this. He really makes up for it by shrouding the movie in that atmosphere and the mystery as soon as the crew discovers the ship. Gabriel Byrne and Juliana Margulies, they actually really surprised me. This might be right before Juliana's kind of, I don't want to say household name, but before she hits ER and Good Wife and all that, and network television. But Gabriel Byrne really kind of shocked me because he's not phoning it in by any means. And don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic actor, especially if you've seen In Treatment or Hereditary or several other things. But he's not without these kind of hammy roles. I mean, shit, he's in Stigmata, he's in End of Days. Like he's kind of all over the place. He likes his horror. There's that atmosphere, that tension that's built. Or atmosphere and mystery, we'll call. I'm not going to say it's very tense, but there's some interesting kills for the gorehounds. There's some really fun elements to it. Like I said, it is a product of its time. The end is ridiculous. There's dreams, well, not dream sequences, but there's sequences where guys think they're eating baked beans out of a can, and it turns out that they're maggots because the ghosts are fucking with them in their head. It's ridiculous even for this movie standard, and the blaring just radio metal song blowing at the end of the movie as well that matched the beginning. It just makes me laugh because it's such a 90s gimmick that felt 5 years too late, believe it or not. Even, watching it almost 20 years later and realizing, shit, you guys were behind on gimmicks, and that's kind of bad. But I do like the change of pace. You get a ghost story that's on a ship instead of in a haunted house. I'm not deathly afraid of the ocean, but the ocean does kind of make me uneasy. I do get seasick. I can't ride. I can't ride on ships at all. We went whale watching once, and it was a disaster. But it's sprinkled with moments. It suffers from being a product of its time. It's one of those, you got to watch it with friends. If you asked if it was in my top 20, 30, 75 horror movies, I'd probably say no. But guiltily, if I was at a party or with a group of friends and we were all just having a few drinks and somebody wanted to put it on, I'd be the first to say, fuck yeah, put it on. Because it is fun. You know what you're getting into. You subscribe to the just ridiculous premise of it all. And like I said, the ending's ridiculous. It's kind of convoluted because you start poking holes in things, but that's where you got to just not think about it. If you start thinking about it, then you'll poke holes for days. So I didn't want to do that. Rewatching it again, I actually started finding a few other things that I actually kind of liked. I thought Carl Urban was better than I remember him being. Also, shout out, Carl Urban's in it before I don't want to say a household name, but before he's pretty well known. And really that production design is what kind of does it. The murkiness and the ship. It feels like you're in the inside of a room that's at the bottom of Rapture or something. And those are only a couple years apart, so it's kind of cool. A lot of that stuff's really what sticks to it for me. The main villain is the guy from Dexter. I think his name is Quinn in that, and he's just not very convincing to me. And anything he's in, I feel really bad, but I don't think he's particularly good. And Emily Browning's actually kind of creepy as a little ghost child. Why is this a guilty pleasure for me? I think because it is just mindless fun. You can just turn it on and watch it. And I know that's kind of been my sticking point for a lot of the stuff we've covered is like, can I just put it on in the background? Probably. Can I have a good time with it? That's probably going to be more than enough for me. Now, it's a guilty pleasure because it's a terrible fucking movie. It's not worse than 13 Ghosts. I think it's better, but that's also not saying much. Yeah, like I said, if somebody asked me if I'd seen it, depending on who asked me, I'd probably be like, oh no, is it any good? And it's one of those where you just kind of look around the room like, oh fuck, I hope nobody catches me lying. But yeah, and I know you gave it a 2-star, which is pretty much what I would have given it myself. I would have given it 2.5 for the production design, but I was really curious after that opening to see how you felt about the rest of it.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about it, and I can start kind of bouncing some of my notes here, I guess, so we can go back and forth or whatever. The opening 10 minutes of this movie or so are really bizarre and then great. It kind of opens and doesn't feel like a horror movie at all. You get this like pink fluorescent opening credit sequence.
Oh yeah,
and the happy music and just everyone dancing, enjoying their time on this ship. To the point where if it wasn't called Ghost Ship, I would have thought I was watching the wrong movie, because it really does not feel like anything you'd see out of horror at all. So I'm like, okay, but then you kind of start getting these like this tense like wire scene and some tense music. It's like, oh, okay, no, we're in the right movie. And then you just get this actually really rad opening where just everybody kind of gets decapitated because of this, I don't know, this rope that just kind of, I don't know. I fuck, it doesn't make any sense, but none of this movie makes fucking sense. So it's just cool at least. And yeah, like everyone just kind of gets completely chopped in half. And yeah, you get this really gory, rad opening. I was like, oh shit. I was like, that's actually rad. Now that's in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and the rest of the 81 minutes of the movie, nothing nearly as interesting as that happens.
No, not at all.
That's kind of where we have some issues, unfortunately.
Well, you do get one guy that tries to have sex with a ghost.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, I have notes about that too. That was great. But yeah, I'm just gonna go bounce down some of mine here. It was great. Although funny enough, in my notes it goes, the start of this movie is really fucking weird. Doesn't feel like a horror movie yet. Oh, okay, never mind. As I type, here we go. And I want to also give I know you kind of shouted him out already, but let's give a second shout out to Mr. Gabriel Byrne. We love him here at An Hour to Kill. Love Mr. Gabriel Byrne. I actually haven't seen enough of his work. What I've seen, though, I've always enjoyed. Obviously, Hereditary is my favorite horror movie of all time. Great in The Usual Suspects, even though that movie's kind of hated now for reasons I understand, but he's still really good in that.
Oh yeah,
And even some stuff like Spider, maybe not my favorite Cronenberg movie, but still, he's solid in that too. So yeah, there's lots of stuff I have seen him in, and I would like
you've
to.
got to see End of Days. He's one of the best devils ever.
End of Days. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that. No, so I'll add that to my watch list right now.
It's not only Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you get Gabriel
Okay.
Byrne in the middle of a restaurant sucking a woman's breast.
Fantastic. That's just 10 out of 10, right?
There it is.
You know what you're getting into there. But yeah, the acting all around in this movie is, I said very special. I think that's one way to put it. Byrne certainly isn't bad. I wouldn't say he's completely phoning it in here, but I think it's pretty clear that 95% of this cast don't really give a shit. So, yeah. My expectation for this movie, so this was still typed in really early, was, man, I hope we're at least going to get some gruesome deaths in this movie. Didn't really get that in the start, unfortunately. So yeah, that was just kind of fun. Although, like I said, later on, you kind of get that stupid idiot bumbling to his death over the naked ghost. So that was fun.
Yeah.
You know what this movie reminds me of, Damon? Have you ever played any of Supermassive's games, like Until Dawn?
Yeah.
Have
I've played Until Dawn.
Have you played Man of Medan?
No, not yet.
So it's their worst one. It's basically on a ship as well. And this movie just reminded me of it entirely too much. Not in a good way. But yeah, that's basically what this movie reminded me of totally. So maybe play Man of Medan. You might like it. It's maybe a guilty pleasure for you. Actually, you know what we should do sometime, Damon? Those games are all co-op. So if you ever get it, we should totally do a stream and play those games together. That would be fun.
I'm so down. I think I actually have Man of Medan. I think it was a PlayStation thing a couple months ago.
Yeah. We could totally stream that then and play it together. So that would be fun. So that's an idea. But yeah. What else do we got here? What is with the jump scares in this movie? It's like they're not trying. Like there's jump scares there, but they're like weirdly
not effective.
They're not effective at all. But like there's like they don't have the usual music cues to go with them, and it's like they don't try it. They're like half-assing the jump scares. It's bizarre.
I totally agree. The whole thing feels tonally weird to me because
that's my next note. The tone of this movie is so fucking weird.
Yeah, it's exactly like 13 Ghosts because it wants to be a horror movie, but then it wants to be kind of an action movie, suspense movie, kind of. And I think the editing is what does it. Is what kind of really throws me off too because the pacing's a little chunky, but it's the editing. You get these really weird quick cuts that you get in like fucking Speed or something else Zemeckis would have done, but it just doesn't fit. You're right. There's no music cues for the jump scares. There's no tension to build to the jump scares. It's really just it just kind of happens on a whim, and then you're like, wait, should I have been scared? There's one or two that I think get me, but yeah, it's tonally just extremely inconsistent.
But yeah, like to go further along that route, yeah, it's weird. The tone is off. The music in this movie is also fucking bad. And you're like, right, that's like a late 90s thing, I guess, with like the fucking the metal music. The guy was fucking I howled at the ending. Like howled at that like that metal song and then that slow shot of him still alive walking onto the ship. And her like, no.
Just like side eyes her, and you're like, wait, really?
Yeah, just stellar stuff there. Like just absolutely fantastic. Oh yeah, speaking of the guy that dies clumsily to the naked girl, I kind of just wish I was him on this ship, just drinking old rotten wine and fucking getting drunk. That seems like the best way to go on this ship, I guess. So
right. I mean, at least he got to flirt with the ghost, but the ghost who didn't speak any English, by the way, so they had to have a translator on set to translate what the director was directing to her.
Oh, that's fantastic! So they literally just hire. Okay, well that's great. Whatever wins the part, I guess. I have a note that just says beans. I like beans. So yeah, the funny scene too. Like they're just chowing down some beans and it all turns into maggots and whatnot.
That's so nasty because they have a bunch of the maggots in their mouth. And it's not like you cut away. It's like you're watching them spit it out. That's one of the most, if not only effective things in that movie is that with 99 Cent, Tim Roth, and Carl Urban.
United said Tim Roth, yeah, for sure. Yeah, is it like I don't know? Like, honestly, I was probably checked out a little bit in this movie in the second half. Well, honestly, after 10 minutes in, but specifically more in the second half. But I just the plot was so asinine, and some of those twists, it was hard for me to follow. Like I don't know, I might have just been fucking out of it. And to be fair, I just watched After Hours, which was fucking immaculate.
Oh, I mean,
So
yeah.
quite quite the culture shock going from After Hours to this
Yeah,
wonderful film.
that's an awful fucking jump. I'm sorry.
I was gonna watch it today before we recorded, but I was like, oh fuck it. Like I've already watched 2 movies today. Let's just cram this one in here too. Oh boy, did we cram it in there. You know who should have made this movie?
Hit me.
James Cameron.
Oh my god. It just would have been The Abyss and it would have been an extra hour long.
Could have got Jimmy Cameron in there. Could have made called this Titanic 2. Could have like just fucking added some fucking horror effects, man. I don't know, man. We could have salvaged this if Jimmy was involved.
I would have been totally down for that. I totally would have been down for that. But to your point, the damn plot is so I don't understand. Like I know it had to do with the gold and then they killed everybody, but then why is that guy, how is he able to go to land and get other crews here because they find stuff from other crews that have been there in the last several months or fresh bodies? And like that's the kind of shit where I'm like, wait, I don't understand though. And but it goes back to like it's so convoluted. Don't the minute you think about it, you're poking holes in everything.
For sure, for sure. Oh, and also before we forget, Damon, would you like to read your fun fact for this movie because it is actually a good one?
Oh yes, as a matter of fact. Oh, and I only saved this one because when you texted me, you were watching it and you were at the opening, and you said it was pretty nuts. I guess in 2016, Coming Soon, the website named the film's opening scene one of the greatest in horror film history, and that's what's crazy to me is it really is. It's such a great opening, and then the rest just happens. But I think that might be why this is a guilty pleasure for me because I could watch that opening a ton. It's just so well. Like I said, the music doesn't fit, the credits, the font, the sequence, none of it fits. Seeing Robert fucking Zemeckis' name on it doesn't fit. It's just like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess it kind of does because he and Silver and Hill and all them were involved in Tales from the Crypt, but still, just what a weird, just a weird tone. Everything is weird, and all their movies they've done at Dark Castle have this exact feeling when you watch them. Like,
What are some other Dark Castle movies? Because I'm trying to think if I've seen any others.
have you seen like Gothica with Halle Berry or Orphan, the one with the Russian girl? Yeah, Orphan.
Okay, yeah, I've seen Orphan. Okay.
Remember in the late '90s, early 2000s, you had all those bad remakes of like the House of Wax remake. Well, yeah,
They did all those, eh? Okay.
yeah, House on Haunted Hill remake. Anything Vincent Price, I guess they could ruin, but a lot of just weird ones. But then they just completely go off the deep, and they're like, "Well, now we're going to do Ninja Assassin." And you're like, "Ninja Assassin, okay." Or Rock and Rolla, like just such what a weird company. I just
I assume they're not around anymore.
No, I think the last thing they did was the New Orphan. I think they're still technically around.
Oh, so they are. Okay. Yeah, I haven't actually seen the new Orphan.
No, me either. I've been wanting to.
Yeah, I actually didn't mind Orphan. So
the first one's fun. It's fun like this one's fun. Well, maybe more fun, I guess.
a little bit better. But no, like honestly, if anybody's listening to this and they're like, okay, well, you haven't watched this movie and you're just sticking around, I can confidently say, go watch the first 10 minutes of this movie and then stop. You're good. But the first 10 minutes of this movie are fun and worth watching. Like
I mean,
it's a great opening sequence.
The poster is so bad that
Really
the
bad.
tagline is "See Evil" with C spelled like the C, SEA.
Yeah.
Like, could we not think of? I know I shouldn't. It's my guilty pleasure, and I'm shitting all over it. But again, I have such a weird fondness for it after having watched. Like I said, my wife kind of made me watch it a couple years ago because she loves shit like this. And to be fair, there's a place in my heart for bad movies too. I'm a huge Trauma fan. I mean, we'll get into that in a little bit, but
yeah,
it's just something about it is it's on and it's ridiculous. I mean, you have pools of CG blood. You've got the only thing, like I said, I will give it is just the production design is really good. The sets are built really fucking cool. A lot of the dilapidated shit and the abandoned. You have the rust and the sea aging and even the the chairs and the desks and the tables and everything, and in the compartments, everything looks really good, and it's kind of like a ruse, because you're like, man, this looks cool, but then as you're paying attention, you're like, oh, but it's just not very good, except for the dude who gets his face chopped off at the mouth, the captain. That was pretty cool, but that's all part of that same opening. So it's just such a it's a weird movie. I almost wonder if this is like 5 or 6 different decisions away from being, a 6.
Yeah, or 15 or 20. I I also, thank you. I actually had 13 Ghosts on my watch list. I did remove it now. So we're also
Matthew Lillard.
yeah, that's not enough to say that one. That's actually why I think I had it in my first place. But yeah, no, we're gone there. We got about 7 minutes left, so I've kind of covered most of my notes with this. Damon, what else did you want to poke into with this film?
I think that's most of it for me. They're really the one thing my wife pointed out when we were watching it, I think, was the gold bars. She was like, they're not really that big, right? I was like, no, they're not. It's a movie, of course, it'd be bigger. But yeah, there's just, I tried to find another reason why this was a guilty pleasure for me. Because, again, guilty pleasure is kind of hard, because there's certain movies that I absolutely adore that I know are total shit, and I have no guilt about liking them, But this one, I just, I think it's one of those where it's just as simple as, I just kind of like it because I like it. And the CG's bad. The transitions are bad. The editing's terrible. The acting's not great. When the ship sinks, you're right. It really is like the Titanic. It does it tops up and then just sinks all the way down. The only other kill I can think of that was kind of cool, though, was when they do show during the whole flashback, the expositionary flashback of what the hell happened back in the day, the little girl showing Juliana Margulies, and the Italian woman in the red dress gets that hook right through the bottom of her chin. That was pretty fucking cool. But 2 redeeming moments, I guess, don't make a whole movie.
No, they they definitely don't. I will, like I said, though, there were some positives. The opening 10 minutes of the movie are really fun. The costume design and the actual set design and stuff like that's all pretty fun. And it is, like you said, it's probably one of those movies where you could just like put it on at like a party and say, all right, we're going to take a shot for every time something fucking stupid happens in this movie. Now, you might end up with alcohol poisoning doing that, but you're going to have a good time. So there's that to go with it too. Who wrote this fucking movie? I'm just curious. Okay, yeah, they wrote
Hanlon, right? Mark Hanlon,
Hanlon and Pogue. Hanlon really hasn't done anything else. Pogue at least has a couple of other movies on his thing. He did Rollerball, which I remember advertisements for that. And oh god, that's some bad ratings on that.
Oh, the remake, right?
Yeah, with Chris Klein and LL Cool J. Yeah,
and Slipknot.
Yeah. So nothing there. What about the cinematography? Okay, yeah, not much. Tank Girl.
Oh, hey, there you go. I got some ties to Tank Girl. Okay. Yeah, it's just one of those. It's there's a reason nobody talks about it anymore.
All right. Well, any other final thoughts on Ghost Ship, or we'll pin her there?
Yeah, I think if you see a little girl disappearing through walls, you just walk the other fucking direction.
Correct. That's always a good life advice. To be honest, if you just see a kid at all, just walk the other direction. Just
perchance.
Yeah, perchance to dream. Get the fuck out of there. Yeah, no. So we're gonna put a pin in this one. Unlike the people who were adrift in the 1962 floating adrift on the Burling seas, we need to move on. We cannot stay haunted forever. We are going to now move into my pick, which is 2006's Slither. This is directed, of course, by the wonderful James Gunn. You might know that guy. He's done a couple of Marvel movies, some DC movies. No biggie, right?
Lollipop Chainsaw.
Yeah, he was involved in Lollipop Chainsaw, which is a rad fucking game. Man's done a lot of cool shit, let's put it that way. And this is one of the first things I actually have a touchstone with him from. Starring Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks, and of course, Michael Rooker. Where is here we go. Slither. A small town is taken over by an alien plague, turning residents into zombies and all forms of mutant monsters. Fun fact for this one, and this is really a fun fact. Again, I had no idea about this, but really cool.
Oh.
Jenna Fisher, who was married to Gunn at the time, was not originally part of the cast. The actor in her role begged to be released from this contract because he had an offer to shoot a pilot. So Gunn let him go. And then rather than having a performer on set who didn't want to be there, so Gunn swapped the character's gender and gave her a few more lines. But by the time the movie was released, Fisher had already become immensely popular from The Office, so much so that they actually put her on The Tonight Show to promote the film. Fucking cool. I didn't know that.
That's pretty
Great
nuts.
story. That's a great story. So why did I pick Slither? So obviously, like me and Damon took the guilty pleasure thing slightly different here. I would actually absolutely recommend this movie. Do I think it's some cinematic masterpiece? Hell no. Like I said, this isn't going to be my top 10 horror movies of all time. I don't think this is pretending to be anything it isn't. But it's an absolute fucking blast of a movie. It's just a great time from beginning to end. You get just maybe one of my favorite performances from Michael Rooker that I've seen. Like, he is just phenomenal in this movie. I think he's so well done in this movie. And I'm a big Nathan Fillion stan. Like, ever since from the Firefly days, I've always been a huge fan of Nathan Fillion. So for him to get like a leading role, I'm like 95% sure he's the reason I first saw this movie. Like, I can't remember for sure back then, but I'm 95% sure. And if I remember correctly, I could be wrong about this, so somebody can fact check me, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure this was one of the first movies that was released on HD DVD, and I bought it. And that's another reason why this has kind of a touchstone with me, is because I'm pretty sure I remember watching this fucking movie on my Xbox 360 HD DVD attachment, which is a bit of a pull for all you Zoomers in the crowd. And I still maintain HD DVD was the superior format. It's got fucked by Blu-ray, but that's that's an argument for another day. But yeah, no, so Slither, this movie's just, like I said, it's a total blast. It's so much fun from start to finish. You get Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks, Michael Rooker, and plenty more. Obviously Jenna Fisher's here. James Gunn's in the movie for a minute, which it's always fun to see him look young and not stressed out as he is these days.
Shit.
Yeah. But yeah, again, I fucking love this movie, man. The special effects in this movie are fantastic. There's so many scenes in this movie that just like kind of like make you gross. Like, there's just so much gross stuff, especially if you're like me and you're not a big fan of insects and stuff like that.
Oh no.
It's funny, you were talking about Ghost Ship having a horrible cheap poster. Slither's poster is amazing. If we flip that on the contrary, it's very, I mean, I don't know if it's much more expensive to make that poster, but it's just a shot of the woman in the bathtub and all of these like parasitic creatures, the little Slither aliens, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, that's a great poster.
Yeah, just a great poster, and it really makes your mind wonder, like, what the fuck's going on in this movie. But yeah, like, this movie's like a 7 out of 10 for me. I think it's just a great time. It's definitely my biggest guilty pleasure. And because we did forget to do the honorable mentions at the top, the only other movie I was really considering over this one was Leprechaun. But I have plans for Leprechaun. I really want to do an entire series watch this Halloween, and then next year I'm hoping to do just a special episode entirely on Leprechaun, and we can talk about it more there. So that's kind of why I didn't go Leprechaun here, but that probably fit your definition of guilty pleasure better, because that movie's a piece of shit. Well, all those movies are pieces of shit. But yeah, we're definitely gonna talk more about Leprechaun in the future. But yeah, let me bang through some of my notes here quickly on on Slither, and then I'll toss it over to you for some thoughts, Damon. But yeah,
for sure.
Where we go. Oh, we started at the very top. The opening of this movie, it's totally a play on Evil Dead, right? Like, how you kind of get that quick shot through the forest. Like, that totally is Evil Dead. Like, it just reminded me so much of that. It was like, oh fuck. Like, and having just watched all the Evil Deads semi recently, I'm like, yeah, this is totally that. And speaking of Evil Dead, not that one specifically, but more Army of Darkness, this would totally be in the running for me for a favorite like horror comedy of all time too. This movie's just so fucking funny with the scares that it provides as well, which we also plan to do a favorite horror comedy episode at some point too, because there's a lot.
Oh yeah.
Lot of great choices there. The real horror of this movie, though, I feel is kind of at the start, and you get the real life depiction of marriage in a movie. Work one out there for yourself. Oh boy, this is hard to watch. Very horrifying. And then we go right into some karaoke, like Crying Game. What a banger selection,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like if you're doing some karaoke, that's the one. You get the person that gets up there that can't sing worth a shit, and they're up there singing Crying Game. It's a banger, man. Like God
James
knows.
is
And
always spot with his music.
that is a note. That is my next note. Like the guy is always just bang on with his soundtrack selections in his movies, isn't he? Like he just always nails them so hard. Like it's just perfect. But yeah, the creature design in this movie, it's disgusting. It's awesome. How Michael Rooker starts as like, just normal and then starts slowly getting deformed. And then what he fucking turns into by the end of this movie, it's just tremendous. And to call back another horror movie, I don't know if you've seen this one, Damon. Have you seen The Brood
Oh no.
from David Cronenberg? Okay.
Yeah,
So I don't
actually not. One of the few of his I haven't.
fair. So I won't spoil it, but I will say definitely reminded me of that a little bit, kind of some of the stuff near the end, and we'll leave it at that. But yeah, very, very much reminded me of that. So I think that's kind of another play, but just great design, great practical effects, great costumes, great gore, all that stuff in here. Michael Rooker, like I said, he's fantastic in this fucking movie. Like he's
He's great.
so funny in this movie. And boy, he must be happy that he attached himself to be the guy in every James Gunn movie now, eh?
Oh
with the way
god, no
with,
kidding.
with the way his career is gone, like fuck yeah, put me in every one of your movies, please. I'll be your good look charm. But he earned it in this movie. Like he's fantastic here. He steals the entire movie for me. I love Nathan Fillion, but he steals the entire movie. He's so good here.
Yeah,
Loved him
I
here.
fucking he's so yeah. I 100% agree. He's great and yeah, go ahead. He's just awesome.
Damn, girl, you are chocolate for the eyes. Like, come on, man. That's just the delivery on that line. Perfect. I don't understand. One thing that what always bothers me about this movie is why, when they go to their little hootenanny at the town hall, why Elizabeth Banks is so overdressed. Like she's wearing this like beautiful dress and looks fantastic. Like looks like a fucking 10 out of 10 like movie star, and everyone else is wearing like jeans and a fucking cowboy hat.
Yeah, that is always weird. I chalked it up to like, well, she wanted to go to Hollywood, so maybe she's got a little bit more higher taste, but the rest of the movie she's not overdressed ever. So yeah, it is an odd. It does stick out, I guess, just so she sticks out in the room, right?
Poor Brenda. That's my note. Just poor, poor Brenda. Lordy me, poor Brenda. You know what's weird to me though about this movie? I really do see a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy here. I really do. Like
Oh,
you can just see a lot of James Gunn's like tendencies and what he likes to do in movies.
mm-hmm.
And obviously it's way more Disneyified, like PG. Like I don't mean that as an insult, but it's more, PG, family friendly has to be. But I definitely see some of that early play here. Like you can just totally see the way it's shot and the way some things are. So
Mm-hmm.
I dig
And
that
some of the dialogue, just the banter between people and their
for sure.
cadences. It's very him.
For sure. Always love a movie where kids die and they're not off limits. Early on, you get that
Right?
scene where
How ballsy! I love that.
yeah, early on, you get that scene where that teenager's like busting on the door to save her little sisters, and you just think, yeah, they're gonna be alive and she'll save them, but no, they're both fucking parasites in there. They're dead. So love that. Just I feel that's great. I feel like James Gunn would make a rad fucking zombie movie, like just a fucking killer zombie film if he ever got the chance.
I always wondered if he had what the Dawn of the Dead remake would have been like if he didn't just write it, like if he wrote and directed it.
Yeah, right. Like I really do wonder that. Which again, I actually like the Dawn of the Dead remake. It's probably besides
Me too.
Watchmen, it's probably my
Yeah.
favorite thing from Schneider. But yeah, I would have loved to see what he would have done with the zombie movie. So yeah, I think one of the most best things to talk about in this movie are do Martians constitute as aliens in general, or are they only from Mars? The guy brings up a good point.
It's actually
Like
a really good fucking point.
no, it is a good point. Like when we say Martians, yeah, we kind of think Mars, but like they are just from outer space, right? I
Yeah,
don't
that's how.
know.
I mean, that's after this movie, especially. I kind of feel like it's the latter. They're
Yeah,
just from outer space.
I think Nathan's a bit of a dick for just kind of shrugging it off. I think it's a valid question. Okay, so anyways, that's kind of some overall general thoughts about Slither. Damon, why don't you talk to me about Slither? You know, your experience with this movie and what you thought of rewatching it.
I remember watching it. It actually came out the year I graduated high school, and I remember wanting to see it just because the trailer, the poster, everything is right up my alley. And I actually knew James Gunn's name because of the writing. He actually worked with Troma with Lloyd Kaufman, so he wrote Tromeo and Juliet. He directed some short films like Kabuki Man and or Humanzi and some other stuff. But this movie is, if anybody knows what Troma is, like, you know, Toxic Avenger, Class of Nukem High, just those, you know, you have B movies. Troma is probably C minus D movies. I mean, they're down there in budget, they're down there in everything, but they're fun, they're 80s, they're overly gory and ridiculous. The absurdity is there. Everything that this movie is Troma. This is literally a Troma film just with more money. And rewatching it again, just I saw that I was like, fuck, this is exactly. But it's more than that. He actually makes it kind of a love letter, if you will, because you brought up the Evil Dead shot in the beginning through the forest, and this is, I've seen this movie at least 5 or 6 times, and this is the first time when they show the very first shot of the town and you're getting the businesses, and there's actually a business that's closed down called RJ McCready's, which is Kurt Russell's character in The Thing. I never caught that. And
Yeah, me neither. That's really cool.
That in itself should show you, I mean, that this whole movie's a love letter. You've got Lloyd Kaufman, the guy who directs and runs all of Troma, is on the TV in one sequence in the background somewhere. He has a little cameo. Toxic Avenger is on in Brenda's house when what's his name gets there, when Rooker gets there. The whole movie, I mean, I think Rob Zombie's in it too. He's the guy on the other end of the phone. He's the doctor when Elizabeth Banks calls. So he's a total love letter. It's pure just B movie fun. All his Troma roots are on full fucking display. The creatures are ridiculous. Shout out Todd Masters, by the way, because that's his company up in Canada, and they're great. They do a lot of shit. But it's a nod to Brian Usna's Society. If you've never seen Society, please go watch it. That's like Reanimator and The Beyond. That's those guys, and the Rooker creature at the end is feels like it was ripped from Society. But the movie, I mean, it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers meets Night of the Living Dead meets. It's funny you brought up The Brood. I was thinking Shivers, which is another Cronenberg movie, kind of all rolled into one, and just something about James Gunn. He knows his audience. Like, he knows who this movie's for. He knows what they want. You know, he throws in all those other homages too. I mean, fuck, you have Goosebump books in there too. It's just, it feels like such a Troma movie if you went to Lloyd Kaufman and said, hey, you know what, I've actually got about $15 million for you. So all that stuff's in there. One note I did have, you were talking about Rooker, and Rooker is absolutely balls to the wall, the best fucking part of this movie. But right behind him is Greg Henry, because he is hilarious. I mean, the minute he pulls up in the car and he's talking shit to the guy in front of him, and then he looks out and that woman's like, oh, hi, mayor. And you're like, this guy's the fucking mayor? And he's just
with a name like Jack McReady. You know you're gonna get a good character of that.
Oh yeah, Grandpa Quill. That's another thing about Gunn. He just loves his people. He keeps, you see Nathan come up. Greg Henry, Nathan Fillion, Rooker.
Nathan Fillion just got casted, I think, in the new Superman movie he's doing too. So
yeah, he's playing Guy Gardner. Yeah,
that's awesome. So shout out to him for that. But yeah, he's very loyal. He likes to keep the same people involved, and obviously Rooker is his good luck charm at this point. But yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's such a fun. It's funny because when you told me you were doing this as your guilty pleasure, the first thing I thought was like, man, there is nothing guilty about my pleasure for Slither.
Yeah,
that's that sounds.
No, I get it. Like I said, we definitely took a little bit of a different path to this topic, which is fine. They're not all going to be followed the exact same way. We'll have some, like, there's one episode I've been thinking. I actually haven't even talked to you about this one yet, Damon. But I kind of want to do like a best, like a favorite, like micro budget horror movie and do something like only movies
Ooh.
like under $1 million budget allowed. We'll have a strict limit on that. Um, so yeah, so like we'll have some movies that'll have more strict guidelines and topics, but for this one, it just whatever we found that was a fun movie, but maybe not great, or
Yeah.
maybe not some cinematic horror masterpiece.
So
To use that term,
every trauma movie.
yeah, which I want to watch some of those one day because they look fun. Um, no, like I mean, like like I hate the term elevated horror. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
No one's gonna mistake this for something like that. This is just fun. It's what it
No,
is.
you're
It's not trying to
absolutely
reinvent the
right.
wheel.
No, not at all. I mean, like you said, it's all those movies rolled into one. It's his zombie movie. It's his Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And it's just fun. I mean, you got the zombies walking down the road like Night of the Living Dead, and it just all the homages and ties. Like I remember when I finally did see it, I was so bummed I didn't see it in theaters because it took me like a year or two to finally get to it, and when I did, I instantly bought it on DVD. And I think you're right about the HD DVD thing. I vividly remember seeing HD DVD cases for this movie. But one thing I will say about James is he's gotten a lot better about how to shoot some of these effects as well. You only have as much money as you have, and the dating on this, it's almost 20 years old now. That ending fire with Rooker blowing up and everything is definitely rough.
Yeah, it's definitely not. Some of the effects are a little bit. A little bit rough for sure at times here. I imagine this movie didn't have the biggest budget in the world,
No,
which
I
is
think it
still
was like
kind of wild.
15 million.
Yeah, which is still kind of wild to me that I mean, Gunn before this had really only done trauma stuff, right?
Yeah, this is his direct, and this is his feature length debut. Yeah,
Yeah, so the fact that he got to wrote his feature debut, direct it, fucking horror movie with a $15 million budget for Universal Pictures, like that's not
yeah,
everyone gets that opportunity. So good for him, right? Like that's fucking awesome.
yeah. I think it's great. I mean, yeah, it really is. You don't see that often. I'm actually, when I read that it was 15 million, I was surprised. I was like, shit, I didn't think they would have given him that much. I especially back then, I would have expected 8 to 10, but he makes do though. He makes it work because some of those sequences are truly fucking disgusting. Like Rooker when he's running out with the elongated arm and he like knocks
Yeah,
over the chair and he was like,
yeah.
"Oh, fuck, that looks cool." I guess Rooker actually dislocated his shoulder in that scene.
Oh
They didn't
shit.
tell anybody, so he's running because his shit's all fucked up because it's actually fucked up.
Oh man, that's great. Like I said, poor Brenda, but Brenda's fucking effects look
Oh,
awesome. Like she just, for anyone who
yes.
hasn't seen this movie, if you're listening to it, Google Brenda from Slither, and I'm sure you'll get some shots of it. But by the end of this movie, she's just this. She basically, if you've seen Monty Python and the Meaning of Life, she kind of looks like that guy, just even fucking
Oh my
bigger.
god.
Just she fills the entire room, and she just basically pops like a balloon, and all of these little creatures that you see in the posters and stuff like that, they end up coming out of her, and they all become like Michael Rooker's like hive mind, so to speak, which is pretty interesting, I think.
Starla.
Starla. Yeah, he's again, he's just fantastic in this fucking movie. He puts in such a good performance. So definitely the shining gem. But like you said, Greg Henry's great here too. And we haven't really talked about her too, but Elizabeth Banks is great here too. I really liked her job in here. She's just kind of playing the housewife who is not really in love with love with her husband anymore, but she's trying to be a good wife and
Yeah.
watch him go to shit basically.
Yeah, no kidding. I thought she was great. She's awesome. I mean, and to be able to sit in a scene with Rooker kissing up on you and flicking your nipples, like you got to give that woman an Oscar for that.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? She does a pretty good job there for sure. Oh man. But yeah, no, this movie is just it's so much fun. We've gone over the music again, like always. He's great soundtrack in all of his movies. There were some choice music choices
Oh
here.
yeah,
What did you have a favorite?
that Yahoy's song at the very end. I love you,
Okay,
but get the
yeah.
fuck away from me.
Yeah. Yeah, that honestly might be mine too. It's fucking great. That's so good. And yeah, this is just like I said. I really do enjoy horror comedy movies a lot, and so just the insanity like that this movie devolves into for me is just nothing short of brilliant. And you really do just kind of get that perfect mix of horror and comedy.
Mhm.
as this goes on. And when a movie knows that, when you have a director that knows what they're doing with that, and they're able to kind of hit that balance, I mean, to me, it's just some of the best stuff you can get, right? Because again, horror is all very subjective. What scares you isn't going to scare me. And funny enough, we're going to do an episode later on this year. We're on Halloween of our favorite piece of horror media that's just generally scary, like our favorite scary piece of media, I should say. Um, horror comedy, it kind of takes the absurdity of horror and mixes in some jump scares, but it's funny too. And who doesn't love that, right?
Oh yeah, and just like you said, he balances it out so well. But to do it for your first film, I mean that it's impressive. I get why he eventually, why he is who he is, and that talent's on full display from the jump. And I think it's great. It's nice to see that didn't go unnoticed, and he didn't just get relegated to nothing but B movies. I'm glad he was able to make a jump.
Yeah, because what did he do after
He
this? He
did
did
Super
Super,
after
right?
this.
Which I actually haven't
Yeah,
seen. I haven't seen that. Should add that to my watch list. Watch that at some point.
that's add it. I'm curious what you think. I'm hit and miss on it. I have my I'm curious what you think.
Fair enough. And then he went straight from that into basically Guardians of the Galaxy, which is wild, right? Like to go
Yeah,
from these two movies that are obviously kind of lower budget, just kind of, you know, fun movies, to go from those into fucking the biggest MCU property. But I guess at the time too, like Marvel, I guess they were kind of just picking smaller directors like that, eh? Like
yeah,
they really weren't picking these well-known directors or doing anything like that. They were just kind of picking guys that they could kind of mold to do their own thing and make movies the MCU way. But the nice thing about Gunn is, I guess Guardians, it did so fucking well for the MCU, and it was easily one of the most popular things that came out of that early run, that he kind
oh
of got
yeah.
carte blanche and a lot more freedom to do what he wanted to do, and was able to finish up his trilogy the way he wanted, which is really
It's
nice, obviously.
it's
Until he got, well,
impressive,
I mean, he did get fired from Disney for a hot minute, but
and you do see his style of comedy in this. I mean, you're killing children. They're making
oh yeah,
jokes about younger women. There's jokes about lesbians. There's jokes about everything. Nobody's off limits,
no.
and that's why it was not to get into it, but like what you're hiring when you hire him after these two movies, after this and Super.
Oh, absolutely, and that's why I thought the whole thing with him getting fired from Disney in the first place was really fucking stupid. Like, it's like, come on, guys, you knew his past. I'm sure you've done your research, and if you didn't, you're idiots. But I'm sure you should have done your research and seen the type of humor this guy was known for. And even so, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just fucking humor. That's what it is. It's a joke.
So,
Comedians,
exactly.
right? Like I don't understand it, but. Anyways, I mean, everything happens for a reason. He went to DC, did the Suicide Squad, which is another very fun movie. And he's now president of DC doing fucking Superman.
Doing fucking
Wild shit.
Superman.
Just wild shit, and a wild career trajectory for James Gunn, which is almost as interesting as Slither itself. Like, he really is one of the more fascinating directors out there, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, who else can you name from the trauma camp that grew as big as he did? It's kind of nobody. Like Lloyd Kaufman's a little bit of a hero to some people. Like I can appreciate the guy. I think he's hilarious, and I read a lot of stuff, interviews with him, and you see stuff. But like he knows his lane. He knows he's staying in that world. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
impressive.
they're doing a new Toxic Avengers movie still, right?
That's I heard. Last I heard, yeah,
Yeah,
I want to go check. I mean, as long as
yeah,
that guy
and
wants to keep making movies, I'm in.
yeah. Who's the fucking somebody who was directing that too? Hold on, I'm curious now. I need to search this. One sec.
It's probably a remake or something, right?
Yeah, it is a remake. Oh, the Toxic Avenger. There it is. Okay, that's why I know. Okay, unfortunately, the movie sucked, so never mind.
Oh,
um,
oh,
it's I didn't like it. He directed a movie. I actually just recently watched this a couple weeks ago called "I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore."
oh, Macon
Which
Blair.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Macon
yeah.
Blair. So I was not a fan of that movie, unfortunately, but
Oh,
apparently
okay.
he's doing the Toxic Avenger remake
That's right. I
with
remember him a
Peter
lot.
Dinklage and Jacob Tremblay, Kevin
Oh
Bacon,
wow.
Elijah Wood. It's got quite the cast in it, so
Elijah
it's
Wood doesn't
interesting.
surprise me. They did I think he works with Spectre Vision for stuff, or
Well,
I
yeah,
know they're in the
well,
same camp.
he was in. He starred in. I don't feel at home in this
Oh
world.
yeah, duh. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I like Macon Blair in like what are those, like Blue Ruin and even in Green Room, what's his name's movies, Jeremy Saulniers, those are pretty cool.
All right.
But I forgot
Anyways,
he
all right.
directs also. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're all good. But way off topic there. Back to Slither. We have a few minutes left. So, did you have any other final notes or anything else you wanted to go over with this wonderfully gross movie?
I'm not like a trigger warning person. I get why some people need it, and that's totally fine. I'm not bashing it by any means. I don't need one. But holy shit, I actually always forget how much animal death is in this, and how many dead animals you see. So I don't know. I guess if you're gonna watch it, and we made my sister watch it, who's visiting from out of town, and she's a vegetarian, so that was kind of funny.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of dead. There's that one. I always love that again. That one scene where Brenda's just like, can you hand me some of that possum over there? Like
Oh
just
yeah,
a little bit of that possum, and then fucking Greg Henry sees and just fucking goes out, throws up outside, like he can't deal with that anymore. The dead fucking possum. This bitch just wanted a bite of it. So, yeah,
so
that's
nasty.
great. But yeah, no, there are a lot of dead, very dead and realistic, gross looking animals in this movie. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm not much of a trigger warning person either. But if you have not seen this movie and you're listening to this and that bothers you, I want to fast forward through some of this movie for sure.
Oh yeah, it's a gorehound movie for gorehounds.
Yeah, like you said, nothing's off limits. So
No, not at all.
all right. Anything else?
No, just gonna continuously dream about Michael Rooker talking about chocolate for the eyes.
Again, some of the lines from Michael Rooker in this movie are still. I wish I wrote down more of them because he's got quite a few. I only wrote down that one. I do wish I wrote down more, but yeah, there's some great lines from him in this movie, and he is worth the price of admission alone. This
Oh,
is one of those
easily.
movies. I think you mentioned it where you're sad you never got to see it in theaters. If this somehow ever made its way back to theaters, I'd be there, man. Day one, I would go watch this in theaters. I feel that'd be fun. You get a good crowd because this movie's probably kind of a cult now, cult classic, kind of in that vein. So I think you
Oh
get a good
yeah.
full crowd of people that like this movie, and it would be a lot of fun for sure.
My favorite line is from one of the cops. He's one of the throwaway older guys, and what does he say? He says, "He looks like something that fell off my dick during the war."
Oh my god,
That's
yeah,
terrible.
that's it's perfect. Perfect. And in fact, that's a great place to stop that conversation. So we are going to slither our way on out of here and
Ooh.
stop talking about Slither. Still at 5 minutes left on the clock, but you know what? We don't waste your time here at An Hour to Kill. We talk for the amount of time allotted we need for the movies, and we're not going to stretch it out. So that's a perfect way. Plenty of time to spare in this episode, but we had a great conversation about two just wonderful horror movies. Wonderful, wonderful horror movies. Yes, Ghost Ship 2. We'll give it a little bit of love.
I was
But yeah, so that's it. The clock has stopped. We have finished another episode. Damon, do you have any final thoughts on either of these movies? General life musings? Anything you want to say?
I think if you go watch Slither, definitely watch it. But if you have any interest in the trauma stuff, I think definitely go back and check it out. If you're into Corman and you're into just that level of B movie complete schlock, yeah, start with Toxic Avenger, then do Return or Class of Nukem High, and then from there you can go as downhill as it'll allow you. But I think Trauma should be. I think everybody should at least check out something.
Yeah, I definitely want to check those out too. Those are I don't even know if they're streamable anywhere or what the easiest way to watch them is.
Actually, all the three Toxic Avenger movies and Nukem High are on Amazon Prime right now in the States. I don't know about you guys, but
Yeah. Canuck here, so I'll have to take a peek into that. Might be a little bit different, but yeah, definitely something I'll have to check out. Toxic Avenger's always been one I wanted to watch too. I remember, I never did watch it, but I remember vividly my dad having that VHS and that cover just kind of creeping me out. So I do remember that movie. Never did watch it, but always been on my list. So we'll see. Might be a good episode one day too. You never know. All right. Well, for myself and for Damon here at An Hour to Kill, thank you again for taking an hour out of your busy day to listen to us. And we'll be back next month with another new episode. See you guys later.
watch out for those ghost ships.
God.